Okay, starting with the previous lecture's recap. Previously, actually, we have seen detail pertaining to the input-output operations of anything we want to have in our program. We want to display some content onto the computer screen, or we want to get or extract user input through the keyboard. We use cin. And before discussing these I/O operations, we discussed the types of languages, various, in particular 3 types of languages. The machine language, very closer to the machine itself, machine dependent. It is not understandable to computers. Then we moved a bit higher to the abstraction level. We get more closer to humans in terms of assembly language, but it only allowed elementary operations, means one at a time. Again, it requires a translator program or the converter program which converts overwritten assembly language code to the machine understandable form, the assembler. Then we further move higher to our comprehension level, that was high level languages, as we normally write over English language, over daily routine word sentences. So such a language is termed as high level language. Again, we need a translator program which converts overwritten code to the machine understandable form, and that was the compiler. C++ being more closer to the hardware, we normally listen to this command. Reason being the powerful use of pointers, the manipulation with the memory addresses we will make by the end of this course, because it allows pointers, which means we will manipulate the memory addresses. So that's why we say it's more closer to the hardware. And generic structure pertaining to, if we compare C++, it's a compiler based, Python is interpreter based. So overall structure and usage of the addressing scheme makes it more closer to the hardware layer, which is actually residing in the computers. So then we discuss the concept of variables, that something in a memory has been assigned a name, a space, a content. Initially there wasn't any obligation onto that space. We were able to store anything in that on that location. We can store a character, we can store a boolean, float, anything on, but it ultimately leads to complexities. Then scientists definitely felt the need that there should be some bifurcation, there should be some differentiation, that how to store the variable, how to store the content in the variable, whether it's an integer, it's a float, it's a boolean, and along with that generated the concept of data types, that we should sign the contract with the compiler in the very first place, that we will let the compiler know that the space I have reserved in the memory, I will be storing this type of data in that space. So along with variables, we actually achieve generalization with variables, because variable is something which is varying. So we actually executed the program of adding any 2 numbers, which we called it's generic in nature. And then we just discussed something that it is not all about cout and cin. We have to move further. For example, we have to make decision making. A particular variable has some value associated with it, how to make important decisions based upon the truth or falsity of that value or that condition for which we will be comparing that word value with. So we will implement or try to understand these things in the selection structures. We will do related examples of that selection structure today, and definitely proceeding with multiple selection structure examples, and then we'll see if we have time, we'll discuss one of the repetition structure as well. So before going to the first slide of today's lecture, I just want to flash some class participation rubrics. These are also displayed on also available on your LMS as well. Most of you have been through these, isn't it? And along with that, most of you have received the Cisco email, course registration email. सबको मिल गई? अपने इनबॉक्स और स्पैम फोल्डर भी ज़रूर चेक कर लें. Everyone has to register that course. ठीक है ना? वो it's a parallel activity. It has nothing to do with this course in terms of GPA. GPA will be graded. Grade would be there with respect to this course, theory and labs. but you have been registered in parallel to the Cisco Networking Academy course pertaining to fundamentals of programming, the same course. So this course will definitely assist you in order to accomplish that course as well. तो उसके milestones हैं, उसकी अपना literature है, उसको study करें. As the course is progressing, this course is, you can do that thing as well in parallel, and everyone has to do that, because before starting the next course you have to complete the first module of Cisco course, which is fundamentals of programming. तो उसको ज़रूर देख लें. जिन लोगों को ईमेल नहीं मिली, तो आई वुड लाइक कि वो अपना नेम एंड वैलिड ईमेल एड्रेस CR किधर CR तो सेकंड CR आपका एनी वॉलंटियर चीज़ तो होनी है. देखें आगे वॉलंटियर. ठीक है जी. तो आप तमाम स्टूडेंट्स जिनको सिस्को की ईमेल नहीं मिली, ठीक है, वो आप करके मुझे व्हाट्सएप कर दें ताकि उनको भी ईमेल मिल जाए. बट बिफोर डूइंग दैट, डू चेक योर इनबॉक्स एंड योर स्पैम फोल्डर फॉर सिस्को रिलेटेड ईमेल एंड गेट योरसेल्फ रजिस्टर्ड इन द कोर्स. कलीमुल्लाह कौन है? ही इज आल्सो द फर्स्ट वन टू रजिस्टर द कोर्स. मैं देख रहा हूँ तो लॉग में. गुड. Okay ji, now discussing we will continue from the slide from where we left in the previous lecture. We were discussing something that if we have some content residing in a variable, for example, grade is 60, let's say. We want to check that if the student acquired grade is greater than or equivalent to 60, student is he has passed the course. So we'll normally write it like if grade is greater than or equal to, see out, likewise there are certain set of relational operators, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to. These are the relational operators, and correspondingly we have some equality operators also associated with them, which actually indicates we are comparing the two operands. It's actually the operator, and the operands we compare to, these are called operands, this is the operator. So these are, all of them are binary operators. Why binary? Because we actually equate or get our results for the two operands. So these are binary operators. Here we have equality operators, and in this column we have relational operators. These are checking whether the value is equivalent to or not. For example, x and y have some certain values. Okay? X and y. X has some value 5, y has some value 6. So is it true or false? False. So the next statement, if it is false, so the next statement is considered as the body of it. If the condition is true, this will be executed. If the condition is false, this will not be executed. Anything which is immediately after the if structure is the body of if. We have to understand that immediate next statement in line is the body of if, and it will be only executed if the condition becomes true. So the condition is false, what will happen? It will be skipped. We will move to the next instruction in line. Let's suppose both the values are same, 5 and 5 over here. Condition is true. What will be displayed? 5 is equal to 5. So likewise, it's an example of equality operator. We are making comparisons. However, while making comparison, we cannot write x equal to y. We have to write double equivalent to. Because if we are writing single equal to, in C++ it will assign the value of y to x, which is not desired. We are not assigning any value, we are rather comparing, isn't it? We are making a comparison whether the values are equivalent or not. So single equal to is operator using for assigning a value from the right hand to the left side of the operator. This is source, this is destination. However, this operators compare the two values. Similarly, over here, if the student has the grade 40. True or false? So what will be displayed? Nothing will be displayed. The program will continue the next instruction. If the grade is 60, true or false?
True.
It is true. Whether the grade is of course not equal to 60, but it is equal to 60. Or the last time when we discussed you are studying DLD, isn't it? Or gate, आपको पता है, and any of the input is true, the output is true. LED should ring. So this is true. This will be executed in our case. Let's suppose, अच्छा इसको further हम देखते हैं if structure को. पहले if से related examples. I hope it's clear. Line number 4 and 5. We have to include part. We have to make part of our program those files which we think have some programming inside it. Input output stream means it has Cout and Cin related programming. Cout and Cin are defined in these files. So that's why I quoted or commented that we are programming in already programmed environment, because some programming has already been done in these files which we are making part of our program. Namespace. There is a space where keywords, let's suppose, are defined. Cout, Cin are defined somewhere. So we just reference that space over here. Now these two are of course part of syntax. We can't violate these things. Then started the main function. Anything with a name and a pair of braces is called a function. Starting curly brace starts our programming domain, and every function has its return value. Integer actually denotes that return value. The main will return 0. It shall mean it has returning nothing. The program has terminated successfully. And the alternate we have discussed previously as well. Just to recap, we can use void over here as well. Then we don't need to write return keyword by the end of the program. So starting with line number 13. So we have deliberately implemented such a program which will take input of two numbers from the user, and the program will tell us about all of these relationships pertaining to the relational operators and the equality operators as well. The two numbers shall satisfy. So enter any two numbers, the program will tell the relationship they satisfy out of these. So Cin. Previously, we have used multiple stream insertion operators in the previous example of summation two numbers, isn't it? Cout, sum is less than sum. We just recall that particular line, how we have written Cout, sum is equivalent to sum. So we have used this operator twice. So we termed it as, we have changed it or cascaded it. We use it more than once. Likewise, we can chain or cascade stream extraction operator as well, if we want to take multiple inputs from the user in one go. So in line number 18, we have actually taken two numbers from the user simultaneously in one line. We can take n number of numbers, but accordingly the prompt should tell the user as well, because we have prompted the user to enter two numbers. We have taken the two numbers. So first, user will first enter 10, press the enter key. It will go to the memory. User will enter 20, press the enter key. It will go to the second number respectively. Now we have the two numbers with us. Let's suppose in the memory 10, 20. So 10 is equivalent to is exactly equal to 20. True or false? False. So next statement will not be running. If अगर true हो जाती तो ये line number 21 हमारी body का part. So program will continue to the next. If 10 is not equal to 20, ये बात ठीक है. This is true. True. So it shall display 10 is not equal to 20. So we are done with equality operators for these two numbers. Now let's check the relational operators. ये वही बात है, सी आउट सीन, एसटीडी प्रीफिक्स हमें लगाना है बिकॉज वी हैव यूज्ड namespace in line number 2, so there isn't any requirement. Declaration of variables. If structure compares values of number 1 and 2 to test for equality. If structure is comparing the two numbers to test for inequality. If the condition is true, values are equal, execute this line, this statement. If this is true, execute this. Okay, coming to the next part.
सर इसके अंदर जो कर्ली ब्रेसेस होती हैं वो अगर इफ कंडीशन में ज्यादा लाइंस और बोनस
वो हम वन बाय वन डिस्कस कर दें. अभी हमने ये पढ़ा कि अगर हमने एक लाइन उसकी बॉडी में, अगर एक से ज़्यादा होंगी फिर क्या है, वो एक क्वेश्चन. वी हैव टू आंसर दैट, बट फर्स्ट वी हैव टू डिस्कस ओवर हियर व्हाट इज द रिक्वायरमेंट, व्हाई टू यूज कर्ली ब्रैकेट्स एंड ऑल. अभी हम वी आर जस्ट डिस्कसिंग इफ. नेक्स्ट कम्स एल्स. अभी हमने उसकी मोटिवेशन नहीं डिस्कस की. व्हाई टू गो फॉर एल्स? इधर कोई जरूरत है एल्स की? यू हैव टू चेक ईच कंडीशन. अगर आप यहां एल्स लगा भी देंगे इट वुड बी रॉन्ग. देयर शुड बी ऑल इफ्स इन अ सीक्वेंशियल मैनर बिकॉज यू हैव टू चेक ईच ऑफ दीज कॉम्बिनेशंस. सो देयर इजंट एनी रिक्वायरमेंट. वी विल स्टेट समथिंग ओवर हियर एंड वी विल लेट्स से extract over requirement and then we will say we should impose something else as well. नहीं else if अगर आप यहाँ पर लगाएंगे कि ये true हो जाएगा तो next फिर चलेगा नहीं. else if ये होता है ना कि अगर true हो गया else फिर false में चलता है, ठीक है ना, तो वो हम नहीं लगा सकते इसमें. we have to check each and everything. bring over here. okay, next आ जाइए. आपके सारे आंसर आज के लेक्चर में मिल जाएंगे. इफ एल्स हमने क्यों नहीं लगाया और क्या वजह है, बिकॉज वी हैवंट स्टडीड एल्स येट. वी आर जस्ट फोकसिंग अपॉन इफ. इफ की क्या जरूरत. ओके, कमिंग बैक ओवर हियर, दीज ऑपरेटर्स, नंबर्स आर विद अस. ट्रू और फॉल्स? 10 is less than 20. True, it shall be displayed. True or false? True or false? True. Or true or false? False. Neither 10 is greater than 20 nor 10 is equivalent to 20. So false. So इस प्रोग्राम को अगर हम रन करें, लेट्स सपोज यूजर ने ये एंटर किया नंबर्स 22 and 12. 22 is not equal to 12. 22 is equal to 12 प्रिंट नहीं हुआ. 22 is greater than प्रिंट हुआ है. 22 is less than 10. 12 is not print. 22 is greater than or equal to 12 प्रिंट हुआ है. However, 22 is less than or equal to 12 प्रिंट नहीं हुआ. Whatever it is matching, we have to check everything. So simple if statements in a sequential manner. इसी तरह यूजर लेट्स सपोज ये एंटर कर दिया. इक्वल to है, not equal to नहीं है, less than or equal to, greater than equal. So these are the total combination. Okay, let's further discuss over here that you have displayed past. Let's suppose ये false है, तो आप कुछ डिस्प्ले करना चाह रहे हैं. क्या डिस्प्ले करना चाहते हैं? अच्छा कोई वर्ड दीजिए. रीट्राई. If the marks are 40, true or false? False. ये चलेगी? चलेगी? अभी आप देख लें 40. This is the body of if. If it is false, ये चलेगा? तो स्किप होगी तो ये चलेगा ना. तो बात ठीक है ना 40 स्टूडेंट के लिए.
मतलब वो ट्रू भी होगा फिर भी.
For 40 is it true? ये चलेगा. कंडीशन फॉल्स है, ये नहीं चलेगी, ये चलेगी. नो, आप इस क्लास में टॉपर हैं 90. ट्रू और फॉल्स? ये चलेगा, ये भी चलेगा. It is not desired, isn't it? Now comes the requirement or the motivation. If we don't want this to be displayed in case of true, We only want this thing to be displayed in case of false. So put an else over it. Now comes the else. Now execute the same thing again. Marks are 40. True or false? False. Skip. Print. Fine. Marks are 90. True or false? Printed. Skip. Control after printing this will come over here. This is the motivation behind if else. There are two separate courses of action we have to follow. Otherwise, if we are not putting else, it is the part of normal flow. Normal flow means whether the condition is true or false, this will be executed. And you have seen, in case of true, it is also executing, for false ke liye jayega. In order to avoid this, put an else. Else is also a keyword with if, along with it. So that's why it's called if else single selection structure. If we are making number of if else together, it's called multiple selection structure. Okay, now everything in real world, because I have said everything derived from the real world. Everything is real world doesn't mean that based upon truth or falsity you make decisions. On some cases you can, but most of the cases it requires nesting of if else. For example, your grading scheme. You have some number, you have a complete spectrum of grades, isn't it? Alpha, beta plus, B, C, D. So whatever the range is, you will be given that. So in order to implement a grading scheme, you require if else, but nested if else, multiple if else. So we call that it's a multiple selection structure. So कुछ चीजें from the book. अच्छा book कितने students ने खरीद ली है? अभी से चलें ले ली है, ठीक है. It would be very good कि अगर आपको e-book मिल जाए, isn't it? At least you have some reference कि जो आपने पढ़ेंगे यहाँ वो आपके पास e-book की फॉर्म में अवेलेबल होगा. So I'll be uploading that e-book today inshallah. So do consult whatever is taught over here, or you get it done in the labs. Do consult that things and correlate that things in the book as well. So this is of very vital importance. So with respect to book, अच्छा एल्गोरिज्म क्या होता है? हमने स्टार्ट में एक बात की, स्टेप बाय स्टेप एग्जीक्यूशन योर ओन रिटन इंग्लिश फ्रेजेस. ठीक है, तो मैं इसलिए कर रहा हूँ कि हम थोड़ा इफ एल्स को आगे रिलेट करना चाह रहे हैं कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू राइट एन एल्गोरिज्म इन योर ओन इंग्लिश vocabulary, sequence of steps and the order to be executed, isn't it? Just like the recipe. Okay, what are the sequences, are the steps and what is the sequence, when we don't have to miss any of the sequence. Okay? So algorithm is something, have carefully thorough understanding of your problem, plan your approach, actions to be executed, order to be executed is of vital importance. Example is the recipe. Control states everything is sequential normally, but specify the order in which statements are executed. So the next one in sequence, if the condition becomes false, next one in sequence is this. So it will be executed or not? No, it won't be executed. So it will be skipped. So there is an instruction, if this becomes false, skip the next one, go to the next in line. So this is done by the program control. After program writing comes only executable statements. For example, I am not declaring any variables. I am just writing C equals to A plus B. I am writing the quadratic equation without declaring any variables. Only executables. इस चीज को क्या कहते हैं? Pseudo code. आपने फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर में ये चीज देखी होगी. Only executables form in formal language. Only executable statements. So with respect to book, अगर आप book पढ़ें तो वही sequential execution by default is sequential. Transfer control, when this comes, next statement executed might not be the one in sequence. Three control structure we will be studying. The first one we have already seen, rather the second one as well. By default it's sequential. Then comes selection structure. The if structure We have just done the example. The if else, we have just seen the motivation, isn't it? Then we will study switch. You call a mobile operator, you go to the ATM, you come across a menu. Press 1 for this, 2 for this, 3 for this. More than two options. So in order to implement such a scenario, we normally prefer switch, multiple selection structure. Then comes the repetitions. Certain sequence of steps we want to repeat on different sets of data.
So, for example, printing, counting from one.
For example, I want to take input of marks you have taken in the first assessment. So I am taking input of each student. These are my steps. These are true for every student, isn't it? But different sets of data, I am extracting the input, different marks from every one of you, isn't it? But the operation is same. You go to the glossary store, you have a list with you. You purchase some items. You go to the rack, put the item to your cart, cross it off from the list. For the next item, would you be doing the same thing? Of course. Going to the rack, pick up the item, put it into the cart, cross it off from the list. So you are performing same sequence of steps on different items. So you are inside a loop. Loop is something of this nature. ये पीछे उठा दीजिए जरा, उठ जाए अगर कोई सो रहा है. फ्लो चार्ट ये लास्ट टाइम भी डिस्कस किए थे जी. ग्राफिकल सिंबल्स, स्पेशल पर्पस सिंबल्स. अब क्योंकि फेल्स से हमने कोरिलेट करना है इसको, तो लेट्स हैव अ लुक एट फ्लो चार्ट ऑफ दिस टिपिकल सिनेरियो. इफ का फ्लो चार्ट, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, if grade is greater than or equal to 60, if it is true, print. If it is false, nothing. Join the normal flow. Here is the normal flow. After doing that, you have to join this line. So this is how we write it. This is how we convert it into code. Just like over here, diamond symbol will actually give us the pictorial representation of if else. If grade is equal to 60, see out pass, else fail or retry. So we have this thing over here. We have discussed the motivation and let's discuss the flow chart of this. इसको भी छोड़ दें, लास्ट में देखें. If the grade is true, grade is greater than or equal to 60, if the condition is true, print. Else, now you have a separate course of action. Perform these actions separately. You have two separate courses of action. After performing these actions, join the normal flow of the program. Just like over here. For past, for condition being true, you have this. For condition being false, you have this. Afterwards, either of these, join the normal flow. You will come over here. The same thing has been described in pictorial formation in terms of a flow graph. So alternate to if else is also called tertiary conditional operator. ये भी आप use कर सकते हैं. It is denoted by a question mark and a colon, and it is syntax wise written inside the cout with the condition first, then comes question mark. If the condition is true, you put the value of true over here, and after colon you put the value if the condition becomes false. So this is one of the other ways, alternate ways to write if else. But normally you will see we normally follow this thing. No, it is like this. It is just like see out अभी हमने किया. नहीं, it is not in double quotes. The complete statement. Only this is in quotes. Okay, real world की हम बात कर रहे हैं कि सिर्फ एक वेरिएबल नहीं है. There are multiple variables. There are multiple parameters upon which we have to make decisions. Our grading scheme could be one of the examples. That if student has some grade, we have our defined ranges. वो हमने खुद से पहले English phrases में लिख ली. We have written those ranges like this. If student grade is this, तो क्या print हो? Just to make it simpler, It is not the NUST grading scheme. You have skipped some grades. A, B, C, D. And F. So student grade is greater than or equal to 90. A range greater than or equal to 80. B, C, D, and F. इसको हम थोड़ा डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. It's another example which is actually containing if else and multiple if else structures being nested. I'll also explain this example. For example, if the grade is greater than or equal to 90, see out A. If grade is greater than or equal to 80, see out B. If grade is greater than or equal to 70, see out C. If grade is greater than or equal to 60, see out, let's suppose D. Now let's suppose grade variable has some value. True or false? So we'll get the last option. Let's suppose 9. True or false? True. क्या डिस्प्ले होगा? True or false? ये ग्रेड है. जिसका 90 है उसका ये ग्रेड आ रहा है. This is not required. इसमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है? Else. You have to put else. ये बिल्कुल इसी तरह आप किसी हॉस्टल में एक स्टूडेंट को सर्च करने गए, आपको स्टूडेंट मिल भी गया है, आप फिर भी सर्च कर रहे हैं. You go inside a library, you have the book, you have found the book, still you are searching. Same is the scenario over here. You have to put else to stop the search in order to optimize upon time and space as well. ये जो if होते हैं multiples, they are consuming your time and space. So put an else. It might be the case on the 10th iteration, on the 10th value you have found what is desired, and still you are searching for the next 90. So put an else. Whenever it is done, put an else. If you just put else over here, true or false? True. A will be displayed. Else will take you out of this structure. No more comparisons, which are ultimately and definitely an overhead on computer system. Why you are comparing extra? वो तो फिर है ना, अभी तो आपने पढ़ा नहीं है ना. वी डोंट नो व्हाट इज ब्रेक. ब्रेक अभी करते हैं हम 10 मिनट तक. तो अभी ये देख लें जी, इफ को अगर हमने ठीक तरह इसको लिखना है, दिस इज द राइट वे, isn't it? If this is true, else it will take you out over here. If this is true, print this. Ranges are defined. Now here are the ranges. Comments are definitely enhancing the readability, isn't it? The ranges are defined. Whatever the range you are following, the concerned grade will be awarded and you will come out of the structure. If you are not matching any of these cases, this is the exceptional handler. Last one, which states you haven't met any of these cases, so it's an exception. Else, this should be displayed. And afterward, if else थोड़ा idea हुआ सबको? Nesting of if else, how it is done. You have to compare on each and every iteration. Why not all ifs? जब हम बात कर रहे थे, क्यों आपने कहा था if else से भी हो सकता है, मगर if else over here it is important. But the example which we have done pertaining to these, वहाँ अपने else नहीं लगाना. Why? Because we deliberately want to make each of these comparisons, isn't it? We don't want to skip it. वहाँ हम else क्यों लगाएं? हमने बताना है कि क्या ये numbers equal हैं या नहीं, ये not equal हैं या नहीं, and every one of these. So then we discussed why else should be there, and over here we have seen in the broader perspective, it definitely saves upon the algorithmic complexity or the optimization of algorithm. Big O notation उसको कहते हैं, जिसको अभी हम normally कह रहे हैं in simpler words, time and space. कि आपका टाइम और स्पेस भी बचा कि आपने इसके बाद जितने कंपैरिजन हैं उनको आपने स्किप कर दिए, and you have found something over here and you haven't compared these two ifs and you come out of this. So एक चीज जस्ट डिस्कस कर लें हम बिफोर गोइंग टू द ब्रेक. इसका मुझे आंसर बता दें जरा. दोबारा हम वही एग्जांपल जरा लिख लें. इफ क्योंकि सीजन आजकल ग्रेड्स का है तो उसी से रिलेटेड एग्जांपल हमें समझ भी आएगी. else अच्छा, आप एक और मैसेज देना चाह रहे हैं. रिट्राई सी आउट. Register the course for any student with the condition being false. So numbers are 40, true or false? It will not be running. What should be displayed? And numbers are 90. Pass. Skip. Register report display. If की बॉडी क्या है, else की बॉडी क्या है, ये तो नॉर्मल फ्लो है. It will be displayed in either of the cases. मगर आपने सोचा कि मैं else का पार्ट है because it's your own intuition, but the semantics are not correct over here. So if you want to make part of this statement should be displayed together to someone for whom condition is false, put a curly braces. Now it's fine. 40 के लिए false दोनों डिस्प्ले होंगे. 90 के लिए passed. After that both will be skipped. Control will come. So this is of very vital importance to put anything if you want to make part of else, body of else, more than one statement, put them in curly braces. Otherwise ये issue आएगा.
Whenever we have more than one statement, we have to necessarily include the curly braces.
Of course, we have to necessarily include the curly braces. And after inclusion, at times student might question, inside this else, you can have another if else. And inside that you can further nest it. It's based upon your requirement. You go to a mall, you see there are 3 towers for something will be catering for that towers. You go to that first tower, you will see there are how many floors. Another thing will be counting the floors. In particular floor, how many shops? How many shops pertaining to some specific department? How many racks in that shop? So on and so forth. You can nest it as much you can. So ये है जी nesting का concept which we have just correlated with multiple selection structure being if else. So let's start back after the break. जी एक मिनट सुन लें भाई जरा क्वेश्चन सुन लें. Okay, for a single statement we don't require braces. We can write it without braces. But if we want to show anything which is past, if you want to state another statement, well done, you have to put both of them in curly braces. For a single statement, you don't need these curly brackets.
So when we are using another if else in the if else, the first one, we have to use the double braces, one for the inside if
Yes.
and for the outside.
Yes, of course. They are separate. Further, you can go to the editor, implement it yourself. All your queries will be answered.
C++ में केस ऑफ अदरवाइज वगैरह होगा जिसके अंदर आपने